120 spiritual significance. This point on the iceberg is more rooted outside the game itself, other than the fact that the star total in the game is 120. This number is what is referred to as an angel number, signifying that it is time for someone to take initiative in some great undertaking. I mean, sure, why not? I watched the Mishkaz video on the iceberg, which influenced me to make this video, and he mentioned the 120 spiritual significance thing, and I saw it, and that's it. 120 appeared to me, and through the will of the spiritual number, I took initiative and made this video. It's true, 100%. This is fact, and now that you've watched this video, you've been inspired too. Like, comment, and...
Yes, it is time. I must do this. Nesty Retro is right. I have been inspired. I will act. I've already discussed my love of Super Mario 64 in the past. I love the game itself, but within the past few years, something else has taken hold of my interest. The phenomenon that was the Super Mario 64 Conspiracy Iceberg. This image is legendary. The topics on this iceberg chart cover an extensive amount of strange things surrounding Super Mario 64, with the topics getting stranger and more obscure as you go deeper. That is the beauty of this image. The coverage is admirable, but I always felt like something was missing. It's strange to say, but I do feel like this iceberg is incomplete. Though to be fair, I don't think there could be such a thing as a complete Super Mario 64 iceberg. Using my image editing abilities, I created a new iceberg. This beast contains all the old entries alongside new ones. Old entries are red, new entries are green, and modified entries are yellow. Well, there's only one modified entry, anyways. It has been covered to death, but I'm not letting that get to me. Not only does this iceberg cover more topics, but I have my own things to say about some of the entries, so without much more gibbering on, let us begin the dive into the expanded Super Mario 64 iceberg. The BLJ. We'll start this iceberg off with a new entry. This entry may be needed for explaining future ones. The BLJ, standing for backwards long jump, is a maneuver in Super Mario 64 that is commonly utilized for the purpose of passing through otherwise solid objects. How it works is incredibly easy to explain. Mario, when facing forward, has a speed limit. If Mario is moving backwards, however, that limit is no longer present. This means that if Mario can stack boosts of speed on top of each other while going backwards, Mario can theoretically go so fast that the game puts him on the other side of a barrier that he'd normally be stopped by, without the game even realizing that he went through it. As one may guess, the method of gaining said speed is by rapidly chaining backwards moving long jumps on a surface that allows for Mario to touch the ground before he slows down, such as stairs. Conveniently, several progression barriers in the game take place near stairs, allowing players to skip said progression barriers without needing any of the requirements. This is frequently utilized in speedruns where the goal is to beat the game with a small number of stars collected. The BLJ is infamous even outside of the Super Mario 64 community due to the sound Mario produces while doing it being, well, hilarious. I feel it noteworthy to mention that the BLJ was patched in the Japanese re-release of Super Mario 64, known as the Shindo version. This applies to any other version released that uses the Shindo version, like the 3D All-Stars collection. Gay Bowser. Probably just as infamous as the BLJ. Gay Bowser is in reference to an audio clip used in the original release of Super Mario 64 that many have mistaken to be Mario saying, "So long, Gay Bowser."
So long, Gay Bowser!
As much as I think it would be funny for this to be the case, the line is apparently actually, "So long, Bowser," with the gay actually just being the G in long. Mario's accent simply makes the G sound like its own word, which it is not. So long, Bowser. L is Real 2401. Without a doubt the most popular rumor about Super Mario 64, the Black and Peach's courtyard has long been rumored to say, L is Real 2401. What this means to a lot of people is that Luigi is in the game, and this is a hint on how you can unlock him. The actual validity of the claim that the text reads this it's extremely debatable. From what we know, this plaque doesn't read anything at all. In fact, the texture itself is also used in The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Meaning if this is as people believe, then Luigi is also unlockable in that game. And yeah, I agree. Luigi is absolutely in Ocarina of Time and very likely acts as a faster version of Epona that Link can call by playing the Song of Stashes. How do I know this? Well, my uncle works for Nintendo, of course. Many of the methods theorized to unlock Luigi involve the number 2401. Perhaps you had to collect 2401 coins or run around the fountain that the statue with the plaque was in 2401 times. Another interpretation for what the plaque said is Eternal Star. At the end of the day, however, it would seem that 2401 is simply just an arbitrary number people made up and latched onto in order to hold the belief that Luigi could be unlocked. Right? Surely the number didn't have some sort of meaning down the line. Special Triple Jump. Very likely well known, yet still made obscure by being a 100% completion bonus, the Special Triple Jump is an unlockable version of Mario's Triple Jump that makes him invincible during said jump. Though interestingly, it seems that Mario is unable to perform a wall kick during the Special Triple Jump. This raises the question of if the reward is actually worth it. The jump is unlocked by collecting all 120 stars and talking to Yoshi on top of the castle roof. Parallel universes. To put it in layman's terms, a parallel universe is a location outside of a level's boundaries in Super Mario 64 where the collisions of the level are repeated. This works due to the fact that where the game thinks Mario is and where Mario actually is aren't always the same. If Mario escapes the boundaries of a level at a sufficient distance, the game will think Mario is still in the level, but visually Mario is absolutely not in the level. This topic is extremely difficult to explain properly in layman's terms, so if you have any interest in learning more, there are plenty of videos that explain it better than I ever could. Half A press. A half A press is way easier to explain than the last entry. The half A press is the process of holding down but never releasing the A button. By doing this, you are not completing a full button press. Now, obviously to many, this term means nothing. An A press is an A press. But that's not the point. Shut up. Really, if you want a better explanation of both these topics, I suggest watching Pen and Cook's video about it. Parallel universes and half A presses are explained way better there than I can here. I'll even put a link to said video in the description if you want to watch it. Hidden 1-ups. This entry was originally Whomp's Fortress Tower 1-up, though I changed it because of just how many interesting 1-ups exist in Super Mario 64. Now, to start, there's a 1-up hidden in the tower of Whomp's Fortress. It can be accessed by kicking the wall it's located behind. This 1-up is strange because there is no visual indicator that it exists, though some have claimed to have seen cracks in that part of the wall, or some other indication. There are plenty of 1-ups that can be obtained by climbing trees, and plenty that can be found via touching obscure locations. One of the most unusual 1-ups includes the one that requires Mario to touch corners of a room. Such 1-ups are located in the basement of Peach's castle between the yellow arrows in the room where you lower the water, in the slide area of Tall Tall Mountain. There's also another weird way to obtain a secret 1-up, but that's a topic for later. Space World 95 Beta. Space World, formerly known as Shoshinkai, was an annual trade show hosted by Nintendo from 1989 to 2001. The important year for this entry was 1995, where the Nintendo 64, formerly the Ultra 64, was shown off for the first time alongside the first playable prototype of Super Mario 64. It was reported that Super Mario 64 was only 50% complete at the time. Bob-on Battlefield Bridge Hanging. I remember when I first read this entry years ago and was forced to picture what a bridge hanging was. Needless to say, it's not that gruesome. In Bob-on Battlefield, the bridge near the wing cap block at the start can be grabbed and hung from. To add on to this, the bridges on the outside of Peach's castle can also be hung from, as well as the ceiling right above the entrance. Most unusual of all, the starting cloud platform in Wing Cap Mario Over the Rainbow can be grabbed and hung from, though can't normally be accessed even with glitches. Motos. Motos, also known as Motos Men, are unused enemies found in the 2020 Giga League. They appear to have been replaced by the bully enemy we got in the final game. Similarly to the bully, the method of defeating Motos involved knocking them into lava, while you had to pick them up and throw them. Their method of attacking Mario was to pick him up and throw him, similar to the Chuckyas. Further cementing the fact that Motos and bullies are related, some of the bullies' code references Motos by name, alongside the unseen yet confirmed existence of a Big Motos and Ice Motos in the code. Finally, the skybox of Lethal Lava Land is referred to as Motos_backscreen, implying that they were the main enemy of the level at one point instead of the bully. It that really you? This entry is in reference to a line spoken by Yoshi upon speaking to him on the top of the castle roof. The line is clearly meant to be, "Is that really you?" But, Yoshi was feeling a little quirky. Gotta spice up your language sometimes. Impossible Coin and Impossible Goomba. In Mario 64, predefined groups exist for multiple of an object. Instead of having to say, place a line of coins, one by one, the developer can instead place a pre-existing line of coins asset. This on paper sounds really good. It might save on space or save on time, but it can also cause a few quirks. On the tiny island of Tiny Huge Island, a 3-coin line can be found. Due to the tiny island being tiny, the entire line of coins isn't visible. It's possible to collect 2 of the 3 coins without glitches, with the third one being located too far beneath the level to be collected without glitches. A second coin exists on the huge island of Tiny Huge Island, though this one is truly impossible due to it unloading. Similar to the impossible coins of Tiny Huge Island, there exists an impossible Goomba in Bowser in the Sky. It's impossible due to the triangular formation of Goombas going off the platform, causing one of the 3 Goombas to spawn on the death barrier below. Big Boo unused text.
You're mine now. I'll pass right through this wall. Can you do that?
This is an unused line of dialogue that may have been spoken by a Boo. It is, for whatever reason, also present in the DS remake. Just judging by the dialogue itself, I would say, in my own personal opinion, that the text may have been intended for the beginning of Big Boo's haunt. The Boo that you have to defeat to access Big Boo's haunt may even be the one speaking, as, when you think about it, it may have immediately swallowed the cage again with Mario inside. It's hard to run away from someone when you're literally inside of them. It's easy to deny this given the fact that text already displays when entering the level. It could also be the titular Big Boo speaking, thus the name of the entry. My evidence for this, disregarding the entry's name, is that you're stuck in the domain of the Big Boo. At least that's, how the Big Boo sees it. Don't tell them about the exit course option. This line was also translated into several other languages. Here are the literal translations for each.
I'm gonna haunt you. I'm gonna go through that wall. Can you do that? Bye-bye, my dear Mario. I can go through walls. You can't do that, can you? Oh ho ho, you're mine. I can pass through this wall without hurting myself. Can you?
I like doing stupid voices. Clicking behind the waterfall. If you go outside of Peach's castle into the waterfall, then stand near it and listen, you'll start to notice a strange sound. Amongst the sounds of rushing water and birds, you're likely to hear a sort of clicking sound. Some have claimed it to be Hazy Maze Cave's music playing faintly in reference to Cavern of the Metal Cap, but I don't hear music. I would compare the sound to the ticking of a clock, but would also warn that it is extremely subtle and might not even be noticeable at first. After listening to it for a while, I can't unhear it, but do think it's just a sound that got roped in with the waterfall noise. Wherever the sound was recorded likely had something else nearby that made the noise and it went unnoticed by the developers. Or maybe they just didn't care. Don't become his lunch. Speaking of Hazy Maze Cave, the character of Dory resides there, and a signpost near Dory alerts the player to the fact that they shouldn't become his lunch. The thing is, you can't become Dory's lunch. Dory cannot eat the player or even harm the player. Dory is, as the first sentence of the signpost message says, a gentle sea dragon. Some players have claimed the opposite, however. Some have even claimed Dory isn't in the game, instead replaced with something else. Mirror Room. The Mirror Room is a location on the second floor of Peach's castle that has, for many players, held a mystery or two. One typically questions if they can reach the other side of the mirror. The answer is hard to say. You can access the other side with cheats, but nothing is accomplished this way. In the DS remake, the other side of the mirror can be accessed by Luigi using the Vanish Cap effect, where one can access the Chief Chili Challenge course and collect a star in a truly bizarre, void-like room. Due to having grown up with the DS remake, I never questioned if you could reach the other side of the mirror because, well, obviously you can in that version, but I always did feel uncomfortable in that room. I'm fairly certain it was due to Lakitu's presence. Sometimes you forget he's the one piloting your camera, and so it's really jarring to see that someone is watching you, you know? Quite alarming to say the least. Jolly Roger Bay Secret Ship. Here is a weird little tidbit of information. There's a clone of the Jolly Roger Bay ship floating above the level, though it cannot be seen normally. It has no collisions and can only really be seen at all through some sort of level editor. Dancing Flowers. There exists an unused animated flower graphic in the game files. As the entry suggests, it appears to be dancing. Oddly though, the flower was found in the graphics for Lethal Lava Land of all places. Probably the last place in the entire game you would expect to see flowers. One can only guess what purpose they would have served. My best hypothesis for why they exist goes something like this. At one point in the game, perhaps Lethal Lava Land was less lethal, less lava, and more land. The flowers may have been used in Lethal Lava Land for that reason, but eventually the level was changed to be more lethal. Now, perhaps these flowers were meant to appear in grassy levels. Perhaps they didn't look very good that way and so they were removed. So before they were removed, Lethal Lava Land became what it is now, thus removing the need for flowers. Now, when they went and deleted the flower texture from all levels that used it, they decided there was no harm in keeping it in Lethal Lava Land. After all, it's not going to get used, right? This is merely a hypothesis, though. My uncle does not in fact work for Nintendo anymore, and he can't really, tell me such insider things. Castle Boo's strange behavior. This one is weird. The Boo present in the hallway leading to the courtyard has some strange behaviors. There are several oddities one can experience with this Boo. While the Boo is present in the hallway, enter the Cool Mountain room and hug the Eastern painting. Then, return to the Boo. It will now be facing the courtyard. If you trigger the Boo's trip down the hall and through the courtyard door, and enter another level room, then return to the hallway, you can turn the camera to clip through the wall and see the Boo far beyond the courtyard door out of bounds. This is all very strange, right? I'm fairly certain the reason the Boo faces away from the player is due to the position of the player relative to the Boo. I don't know why Cool Mountain specifically is causing this, but if you trigger the second oddity and instead choose Whomp's Fortress's room, you'll find the Boo staring at an angle. Continuing this madness, I've noticed it's possible to make the Boo go down the hall by hugging the western wall of Whomp's Fortress's room. You'll hear it laugh. Hell, you can even clip the camera in Whomp's Fortress's room to see the Boo out of bounds. My best guess is that the Boo doesn't unload sometimes and will choose to face Mario even if there's no logistical way to see him. Why the Boo doesn't adjust its gaze to meet you when you return to the hallway, I do not know. Blarg. In the files of Super Mario 64, there exists a model for an enemy known as the Blarg. The appearance of the Blarg is similar to that of its design in Super Mario World, and it would have appeared in Lethal Lava Land, Bowser in the Fire Sea, and for some unknown reason, Wing Mario over the Rainbow. One can make a Blarg appear in Lethal Lava Land using a Game Shark code, though it's clearly unfinished. Its behaviors consist of repeating the same animation over and over while bearing a distinct lack of eyes. If Mario touches the Blarg, he'll still take damage, so that much was programmed at least. Some people have reported Blargs appearing even without the code, and some have even reported it having a proper AI. Pro tip, if you're going to enter the Blarg code, do it once you've entered Lethal Lava Land. Having it enabled outside tends to freeze the game. For me, it got rid of the door for Cool Mountain, fitting for an enemy that lives in lava, I suppose. Yoshi's Saddle. In Super Mario 64, the shell on Yoshi's back is pure red. However, it's normally depicted as red with a white rim. Apparently, and according to what I've read, there does actually exist a rim on the model, but it's incorrectly colored, thus leading to Yoshi's shell being completely red. Considering the typo in Yoshi's dialogue, stuff like this makes you realize how dirty they really did Yoshi. This has to be the worst Yoshi-related thing on the iceberg by far. Right? Right? Attacking butterflies. One of the weirdest Easter eggs in Super Mario 64. The butterflies you occasionally see outside of Peach's castle and in certain levels can be attacked. If for whatever reason you randomly decide to attack a butterfly, you'll be greeted with either nothing, a 1-up, or a homing projectile that explodes. If it makes you feel any better, the exploding butterflies can only appear in the levels Tall Mountain and Tiny Huge Island. Volcano blocks. If you were to journey into the volcano of Lethal Lava Land and reach the top, you'd stumble across these strange-looking block towers. One of the towers has fallen over, while the other one still stands tall. The obvious answer is that they're decoration, but, they could also represent Mario and Luigi. After all, only one of the Mario brothers is present in Super Mario 64. Disregarding my prior comment, the reason for these towers being present is unknown, though they do stand out in the location due to being made of metal. Someone had to put these there in-universe. The Big Dud. After the player defeats King Bob-omb, if they were to speak to the Bob-omb buddy at the start of the level, they will thank Mario, and say that the king is now just a big dud. This is on its own nothing special, it's just a joke about how the king is a bomb and defeated, with a non-functional bomb being a dud. But on subsequent missions, you might notice that a third ball is now present in the pit at the base of the mountain. Some believe this is to imply that the king is more than just defeated. Whether or not this is actually his dead body is not important, because it's still a really fascinating point. Jolly Roger Bay Vanishing Fog. If you start a new game of Super Mario 64 and unlock Jolly Roger Bay, upon entering it, you might not notice the difference at first. I didn't notice it until the iceberg first came into my life a few years ago, but there is a fog only present before Plunder in the Sunken Ship has been completed. After getting that star, the fog will vanish forever. The only way to get it back is to make a new save file. There is no real purpose to the fog, but, it's still present. Secret Aquarium. This entry is very likely in reference to the well-known and required for completion area known as the Secret Aquarium. It can be accessed by jumping into a hole in the Jolly Roger Bay painting room. From there, Mario is tasked with collecting all of the red coins in the room before his oxygen runs out. If all goes well, you'll get yourself a star. As for why this entry is so low on the iceberg, when it's not only well known but required for 120 star completion, is likely because of its existence as a whole. Think about it for a second. How is it even possible for Mario to get here? It's a giant room full of water, and it has windows that show a cloud-filled skybox on the outside. Where even is this place? It's something so easily overlooked, but the spirit of the iceberg is to not overlook anything, so yeah, this is a really weird location. It's probably located over Texas. E.T. and Pyramid. In the Pyramid of Shifting Sandland, there exist textures that, if examined, might be noted as containing the letters E.T. I see it very clearly. It's entirely possible the letters are just symbols or drawings, because the E could very well be a coiled snake, but no, it's too vivid. What E.T. could be referring to is very simply aliens. Aliens building the pyramids has always been a popular theory. Might also relate to the rumors of a UFO being spotted in the skies of Shifting Sandland. Or maybe the people who built the pyramids were just a fan of the popular hit movie E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Please walk quietly in the halls. The second floor of Peach's castle contains a strange sign that reads, "Please walk quietly in the halls." On one hand, this is clearly just an in-universe sign that you'd likely find in a really fancy castle. On the other, the sign has captured the interest of many players. Many theorize that there may be real in-game reasons for why you should be quiet in the halls. Perhaps something around the corner is ready to confront you for your disobedience. Perhaps it's something far worse than just an enemy. Big Star Secret. Big Star Secret is a Lost Screamer hoax video that attempted to convince the viewer that Luigi was unlockable in Super Mario 64. The video was uploaded by LotusMan17 back in August 15th of 2007. In late 2012, it was deleted from his channel. Toadstool 64 was used to change Mario's colors from red and blue to blue and black, as well as used to add a new door to the right wall next to the lobby's main staircase. The song Bring Me to Life by Evanescence was playing during the video. The video would go on to give the viewer the instructions on how to unlock Luigi until the very end, where it would abruptly cut to the infamous K-Fee zombie screamer. As of August 11th of 2022, this video is only partially found. What still exists of this is showcased in a reaction video taken at an angle from which very little of the actual video is clear and visible. The video is called Little Brother Getting Scared, Late Reaction. And as of the aforementioned date, it is still available on YouTube.
What can he hear? Can you hear it now?
Yeah. Hey.
What is it doing, Blade?
Wait.
Where'd I leave it?
I think, I don't know
Wait,
if
move! Move! I cannot see.
I don't know if this is the video.
I take no responsibility. On the huge island of Tiny Huge Island exists a lone pillar of land that can seemingly only be accessed by precision cannon use. If one manages to use the cannon and get themselves up on that pillar, they will find a sign that reads, "I take no responsibility whatsoever for those who get dizzy and pass out from running around this post." Right next to the sign is, well, a post. Typically, if you run around a wooden post 3 or so times, a handful of coins would pop out. This, however, doesn't seem to be the case for this specific wooden post. Not even pounding it does anything. Everything about this pillar, from how difficult it is to access to how useless it is, really comes across as a giant mystery. Or, a giant troll from the developers. Who knows? Maybe we haven't circled the post enough times. L might still be real. Bugged fire texture. Due to a simple coding mistake, the smoke that emits from Mario upon touching fire is displayed incorrectly. the normal texture is much more smoke-like, while the bug texture is basically indistinguishable from what you would expect. As much as the normal texture is clearly the correct one, it's not hard to accept the bug version due to how natural it looks. Really, I feel both work, though obviously I'm biased towards the bugged version due to how used to it I am. Unagi's Tunnel. In Jolly Roger Bay, starting in the mission, Can the Eel Come Out to Play?, Unagi can sometimes be found inhabiting a tunnel on the side of the level. This tunnel, despite being impossible for most to enter, has been said to contain something. Many players have questioned if anything was in the tunnel, or if perhaps it could be entered through some special means. To this day, nobody has figured out any consistent reason for why some players have been able to enter it, but not others. Mips Throwing. Mips the rabbit is a character present in the basement of Peach's castle. If the player catches him, they'll be rewarded with a star. From there, the player can choose to pick Mips back up and carry him around. This is only really useful for the sake of performing a progression-breaking glitch, though at one point in development, Mario would have been able to throw Mips too. While some players swear they remember throwing Mips, the only way to do so is by using the aforementioned glitch to access a body of water where Mips can be thrown properly. Hazy Maze Cave Alcove. In the level Hazy Maze Cave, the area that is the level's namesake contains a few alcoves that, for the most part, don't seem to have much of a use. Logistically, they exist to give the player a break from the hazy part of the maze cave, but even so, that already exists in the form of easily accessed abundant higher ground present across the maze. One could assume that the alcoves existed at one point where the higher ground didn't exist. It's possible that an early version of the game didn't include the slightly higher ground, and that the entire maze was hazy. Much like the dancing flowers, it's possible that the developers had no reason to remove the alcoves once the change was made, thus leaving to the somewhat mysterious Hazy Maze alcoves. Benign Karanpa Ball. In Wet Dry World, there exist instances of the enemy known as the Karanpa Ball, or, if you want to use the closest thing we have to a proper English name, Flame Chomp, that live in a state of constant deactivation in the town area. If a Karanpa Ball is submerged in any depth of water, it will not shoot fire at Mario. At its lowest water level, Wet Dry World's floor is still wet. A thin layer of water will always exist without use of glitches, and thus the Karanpa Ball present on said floor will never be able to attack Mario, leaving them completely and eternally benign. These Karanpa Balls were removed in the DS remake. Yellow Cap Switch. Among the used cap switches in Super Mario 64 exists an unused yellow variant. This yellow switch would have, from what information I have, provided Mario with blocks that dispensed Koopa shells. If placed in a level, the switch would also apparently be pre-pressed. This is presumably because all yellow boxes are already solid in the retail releases. Imagine how many Koopas it would have taken just to produce one yellow block. How inhumane. Broken Paintings. This entry is interesting. As a kid, even I questioned what was up with this. In Super Mario 64, there exist paintings that Mario cannot enter. Not just repeats either, but entire unique paintings that simply do not lead to anywhere except, breaking your nose against a solid wall. Some have claimed to find these new courses behind paintings, but like many, I am yet to see this for myself. One may assume that the paintings you can enter are enchanted. Perhaps Bowser enchanted the paintings so he could hide the stars within them, and the paintings that he did not enchant simply exist as normal paintings. Perhaps none of the paintings originally led to anywhere, and it was all the fault of Bowser for making them portals. This may explain an upcoming entry too. Wall to Shifting Sandland. I decided to do this entry sooner than it appears on this layer simply because of how closely associated with the last one it is. I'm surprised this isn't talked about more often because it's something I personally find odd. There is a lot of discourse over the nature of the paintings in Super Mario 64. Some question how the paintings work and all that. I question why sometimes a solid wall is a valid entrance to a level. Both Shifting Sand Land and Snowman's Land do not have a painting of their own, but instead a wall that can be passed through. In both instances, the wall in question can be noted as odd or off due to its placement. For Shifting Sand Land, it's the fact that it's the wall of a dead end. And for Snowman's Land, it's the fact that a painting exists in the reflection of the mirror room, but no painting exists on Mario's side of the mirror. One could also question what's up with their docks because, well, let's face it, that isn't a wall, and that isn't a painting. These aren't even the only instances either. What's going on with TikTok Clock? Big Boo's Key. In early footage of Super Mario 64, the Big Boo can be seen with a key inside of him. One can only assume this key would have been used to unlock further locations inside of the level. Some players have also reported this key appearing in-game. There also probably would have been a counter to keep track of your keys, implying, well, there are multiple keys to obtain. Jolly Roger Bay Box. This one tormented me as a child. There exists a lone box on the ship Jolly Roger Bay that is truly an anomaly. It only exists in this one level, and only one of this box ever appears in the game. Despite being a box, it cannot be broken by any means. If Mario walks into this box, he'll take 1 tick of damage. If Mario lands on this box, he'll be pushed off and will likely not be harmed. You can perform a double and or triple jump off of the box with correct timing too. The existence of the box is strange simply due to how it doesn't do anything. It barely poses any threat to Mario due to its singular nature and predictable movement pattern. It also takes up a small amount of space on the deck of the large ship, and only does a tick of damage if it hits Mario. Further adding to the strangeness of this box, sometimes Mario will take multiple hits from the box in rapid succession, but only take 1 tick of damage. Many players, including myself, have attempted to break this box due to its strange nature. Unfortunately, the sliding box never seems to break no matter what it's hit with. Many players have tried, very few have reported anything. Perhaps the box doesn't contain anything at all, or perhaps the Jolly Roger on the side of the box is indicative of what it contains, and thus, we should stop trying for our own sake. Tuxie Dive. Tuxie is the penguin that Mario must throw off the level, return to the mama penguin for a star. Tuxie has an interesting quirk, however. She will react to Mario performing a dive by performing her own dive. It is beautiful. Tuxie isn't the only talented penguin though. The other baby penguin in the level will perform a dive under identical circumstances. Gather both penguins up for the best experience of your life. Ghoul Medal. There exists a sign close to the entrance of the mansion of Big Boo's haunt that says,
You don't stand a ghost of a chance in this house. If you walk out of here, you deserve a Ghoul Medal.
For most, this is merely a play on gold medal, though for some, there is more to this. For me, I never even really knew about this sign, and I never really read the signs at all as a kid. I just kind of figured things out on my own the entire way through. I had absolutely no idea that such a concept as a ghoul medal could exist up until the iceberg came out. It's worth noting at least that the words ghoul medal are capitalized in a way that suggests they are more than a play on words. Typically, you would find such capitalization in the names of items. This then implies that the ghoul medal is more than a play on words. Some have reported the ghoul medal being a real item that you can collect and utilize. What this does is unclear, but at the very least, there may be more to the ghoul medal than a mere joke. Mips's name. Mips the rabbit bears a name that many might not really question, at least until they realize it is entirely capitalized. This is because Mips is named after the microprocessor without interlocked pipeline stages. The Nintendo 64 used Mips, and Mips the Rabbit was the first character created for Super Mario 64, too. Womp King turns into the castle. In Womp's fortress, there exists the Womp King. He is only present on the first star, while all subsequent stars have the area he has fought in, bearing a large tower that the player can climb. Before the fight with Womp King, he states the following:
It makes me so mad. We build your houses, your castles, we pave your roads, and still you walk all over us. Do you ever say thank you? No. Well, you're not going to wipe your feet on me. I'll crush you just for fun. Do you have a problem with that? Just try to pound me, wimp. Ha!
The part about building houses, castles, and roads has led some to believe that it was meant to be taken literally, that the Womps are either willingly or unwillingly used as building materials for the aforementioned construction projects. All of this comes together to imply that the tower you see in stars after Womp King's defeat are made of the Womp King himself. This is not too dissimilar to the fate of the Bob-omb King, as mentioned earlier. July 25th, 2020 leak. To put it in simple terms, there was a leak posted to 4chan on July 25th, 2020 that revealed a lot of things about Super Mario 64. More specifically, beta and unused content, alongside a portion of the source code. One of the most incredible discoveries to come out of this was the existence of Luigi. Parts of a model and textures for Luigi were found and reassembled, leading to this. More interestingly, and some people caught on very quickly, is the date. 24 years and 1 month after the release date of Super Mario 64 is July 23rd, 2020. Only 2 days from the leak. L is real, 2401. Interestingly, the Blarg enemy mentioned earlier had code related to how it would have behaved as revealed by this leak. It would have waited for Mario to be within a certain radius of itself, then it would attack Mario. Its model was also scaled up to twice its original size. And yes, I am perfectly aware that there's probably a miscalculation in the way I calculated the date back there. Just ignore it. Just move on. Move on. You don't want to summon Miyamoto. He might attack you. You don't want to start this argument. You don't want to do that. You do not want to do that. Wet Dry World Skybox. The skybox of the level Wet Dry World has always been something of interest. Taking one look at this thing reveals an image unlike anything from our world. A city bathed in water with the faint existence of the sunlight above. Really makes you think of a drowned city. One that lines up perfectly with the level's main gimmick. Doesn't matter how high or low the water level is, because the skybox always depicts a sunken city. The longer I stare at the skybox image, the less it seems real. Even the buildings feel really off. If I were to compare this to anything, I would have to compare it to primitive AI image generation. I would say overall that the skybox image is beautiful, if not eerie. It makes you wonder what happened to the city depicted in it. As for what the skybox actually is, it's a composite image of Shabam, a town in Yemen, and presumably a custom underwater render made specifically for Super Mario 64. If anyone actually knows what the second part of the image is, please let me know, because I have no idea. How Bowser got into the castle with his sub. In the level Dire Dire Docks, Bowser's sub is present, but only before beating Bowser in the Fire Sea. After beating Bowser in the Fire Sea, his sub is gone. The hole is present in the level that indicates where it had gone. Entering the hole for yourself will lead to Mario being teleported to the lake outside of Peach's castle. This is weird. Obviously, it implies that Bowser's sub exited the level and entered the lake where it It absolutely would not fit. This, however, begs the question of where Bowser even came from. How did Bowser's sub get into Dire Dire Docks if the exit is the lake? My best guess is that wherever Dire Dire Docks is its own separate location. It's where Bowser started with his sub. He then made a portal to Dire Dire Docks in the castle and a portal to the lake outside of the castle in Dire Dire Docks. There's also the idea that perhaps Bowser's sub and Dire Dire Docks only started to exist once Bowser created the world by making a portal to it. Thus meaning Bowser got to leave with a free sub that he didn't even have to build. Though, let's talk about this more in the next entry. True location of painting worlds. A completely valid question that I'm sure even the youngest of Super Mario 64 players had to question at least once. In Super Mario 64, there exists a large number of seemingly disconnected worlds that Mario can access via the paintings in Peach's castle. Do these paintings act as portals to said worlds? If I had to add my own 2 cents, I would say that the paintings do indeed lead to other worlds that exist outside of the paintings, but perhaps not always at the exact point in time where they were entered. Similar to real-world paintings, these paintings are based off of real-world locations, and by entering them, you are entering how these locations are depicted in the paintings, rather than being teleported to said locations at their most current point in time. That is to say, entering Bob-omb Battlefield doesn't send Mario to the actual location of Bob-omb Battlefield, but instead the version of the world that the painting is attempting to depict. Perhaps in Mario's time, the battlefield is no longer a battlefield, but instead a thriving civilization of bombs. Thus meaning the version he enters through the painting is that of the past, before said civilization was formed. This does not affect the real-world location, only the painting version. That's just my idea. Call me an overthinker, but this is fun to think about. Mario enters Wet Dry World early and Got Milk commercial. This entry is weird. Unless me and the person who made this iceberg are from different universes, the Got Milk commercial depicts Mario having 37 stars. At first, I assumed it was 31 stars, but comparing the font, it is indeed 37. Either way, Mario has enough stars to enter Wet Dry World. In fact, 31 stars is the minimum required amount. 30 for the Star Door, and 1 from Dire Dire Docks to unlock Bowser in the Fire Sea. Unless I'm wrong? This entry is making me gaslight myself and it's horrible. Either this entry is a red herring, or the author simply got it wrong, because as far as my Super Mario 64 knowledge goes, something doesn't add up here. Unless the author means something else by early. Perhaps the author meant after Mario exited the TV in the commercial, he should have stayed for a while before entering Wet Dry World again. You know, maybe he should have stuck around, had a snack. Mario needs all the fuel he can get after all. I just had the epiphany of a lifetime. As I was preparing to move on to the next entry, I decided to read up a little more. I wanted to know if maybe another source says something different about the star amount required. Then I read this line in the trivia section of the Mario Wiki's Wet Dry World page. However, the level shown in the commercial differs from the one in-game, and that the sky is bright blue instead of dark. I then went back to the commercial and watched it until the end, when Mario is climbing the level. Sure enough, the skybox is normal. This entry isn't referring to the fact that Mario entered the level with less stars than he should have. It means Mario entered the level before the town in the skybox flooded. Mario entered Wet Dry World early. The second I put these pieces together, my entire body was overtaken by chills and I started laughing. Holy shit, how did I not realize this sooner? Mario enters the level early, just not in the way we think of as early. Haunted dirt texture. There is an apparent face in the dirt texture seen throughout Super Mario 64. Looking at the dirt, you might be able to see a face, you might be able to make it out, but even being told where it is, I don't see it as distinctly a face. There are already several faces I can make out by staring at it for long enough. Do you see anything? Removed courses. There exist several unused and removed courses in Super Mario 64, as with most video games that exist. Of note is level 32, which is referenced internally in the retail release. If you want to learn more, I don't know what to tell you. I could hardly find anything relating to this entry myself. Big Boo's Haunt Forest. If one were to take a look at the skybox of Big Boo's Haunt, they may notice an incredibly obvious ominous detail, then proceed to overlook it completely. The skybox of Big Boo's Haunt appears to depict a forest-like area. Despite this, there's no way a forest exists outside of the level, as the level takes place within a cage in Peach's courtyard. My best guess as to why this is relates to the Boo that's holding the cage. It is entirely within reason to assume that inside of the Boo is darker than the outside, and thus being inside the Boo makes the world outside look a bit different. One can assume the grass outside of the cage looks like trees when you're that small, but even then that doesn't explain much. Look at the skybox as an image. There is clearly a moon. The only explanation I can think of that truly 100% makes any sense is that the Boo itself contains a world within its body that you see while in the cage that contains the level. Some have reported being able to enter the forest, though. Zelda 64 beta assets in Wet Dry World. This entry is a pain in my ass. I can say for certain that the texture for the doors in Wet Dry World are used in Ocarina of Time, but that's about it. I suppose looking at old screenshots of Zelda 64 does allow us to see some super basic looking housing. These houses are very similar in appearance to that of Wet Dry World, and apparently the leak mentioned prior revealed the internal name of the level to be 11 ZLD City. However, I cannot find any actual evidence of this. The only source is the Conspiracy Wiki, which, take that with a mountain of salt because it could be true, but no reliable source. Skyboxes are photographs. As mentioned earlier, the skybox for Wet Dry World is a composite photo of a real-life location. This means the other skyboxes could be photographed too. Though looking at most of them, they all seem to be computer generated. All of them except for the Bowser in the Dark World background are very clearly computer generated. Bowser in the Dark World's background is, well, that's very clearly an image of Ohio. The end screen. This image, the Super Mario 64 end screen, is absolutely bizarre. Just looking at it, you start to notice things are off. First of all, is that Yoshi in the background? It could just be a painting of him, but Yoshi looks wrong. Secondly, the cake has both Peach and Mario on it, but there are very clearly 3 cups of tea. If this is a celebration for Mario and Princess Peach, who is the 3rd cup for? Also, the cake looks really weird. I can't figure out what angle it's at, but it doesn't line up with the rest of the table at all. The only thing I can really say with absolute certainty is that I 100% stand by the theory that the 3rd cup of tea is for the player. It's a lot easier to explain that way. Secret Slide Dimensional Rift. I would assume this is similar to the painting talk from earlier. The entrance to the slide levels almost never make any sense in relation to where you enter. They're also several times bigger than anything they're situated in. One may be able to assume that the reason for this is that the entrances, similar to paintings, take Mario to another location. In this instance, a rift to another dimension. Mario 64 is Freemason initiation. This is a theory that, as the entry describes, states the game Super Mario 64 represents a Freemason initiation. I don't think I have the attention span to explain it all, but I'm going to try. I'll be reading off all of this from a tweet, word for word. As much as I do not want to do this entry, it's not right if I don't at least try to explain, so here we go. Super Mario 64 is a Freemason and a luminous digital ritual. The game begins in this Masonic hall. There is a checkerboard floor, symbolic of the world of the polarized opposites. The physical world is on the No, I'm not doing this. Cold, cold crevice. There's a sign near the start of Cool Cool Mountain, right before the warp that sends you to the bottom that says, "Warning, cold, cold crevice below." This text is likely in reference to the giant drop that is present beyond the sign, though some thinks it hints to an unseen bonus area. I got curious and tried to translate what the Japanese version says, giving me the result of, "This is dangerous. Look out for the lift." This seems to imply that what it's trying to say is, "Hey idiot, there's a giant drop here, stay away from it because it's dangerous to get near." Cold Cold Crevice itself is likely just a joke, playing off of Cool Cool Mountain. At least, that's what people believe, anyways. Whomp's Fortress Interior. Despite being named Whomp's Fortress, it really isn't much of a fortress at all. There is no actual way to enter the fortress either, only solidifying its status as distinctly not a fortress. Some have claimed, however, that Whomp's Fortress does have an interior, though these claims are hard to confirm. Original resolution textures. Ever wonder where the textures for Super Mario 64 came from? You wouldn't be alone in that. Most Super Mario 64 textures are 32 by 32 pixels. And as you can see by looking at most screenshots of the game, they get stretched really hard. There exists a project whose goal is to find the origins of the textures used in Super Mario 64. A vast majority of these come from stock photo CDs. A GitHub wiki for Render 96 has more documentation on this stuff if you want to learn more. Big Boo's Secret Laugh. In Big Boo's haunt, it's possible to trigger a lower-pitched Boo laugh by entering the door to the mansion with precise timing. The reason this happens has been theorized to be related to the game loading the interior of the mansion for the first time. As a result of this, it cannot be triggered by exiting and re-entering. The laugh itself is higher pitched than the Bowser laugh, but lower pitched than the Boo laugh. It has been noted to sound very similar to the original sample of Charles Martinet's laugh, only slightly higher in pitch. I gave it my best shot, trying over and over to get the laugh to trigger. I never did manage it, but I do wonder if the play method changes how your chances are. Rainbow Village. In the Rainbow Crew stage of Super Smash Bros. Melee, there exists a village in the background that, in truth, doesn't make sense existing. Rainbow Cruise is based off of Rainbow Ride from Super Mario 64, which has no such village. Does this imply the existence of a village we are yet to discover? Perhaps it has no meaning, but I don't believe that. Yoshi commits suicide. After obtaining 120 stars in Super Mario 64, the player can access the roof of Peach's castle using the newly unlocked cannon. Doing so allows the player to talk to Yoshi. Once this is over with, Yoshi will take a giant leap off the castle, never to be seen again. Some players have believed this is Yoshi's suicide, though. I don't think that's true. Internally, the action is apparently referred to as Yoshi_go home. If Yoshi were to die, his body would be there, but if Yoshi were to go home, he wouldn't be present. As you can see, Yoshi is nowhere to be seen. It's safe to say that he just went back to Dinosaur Land, right? Bob-omb Village, a supposed cut area of Super Mario 64. There have been many claims as to what this area is like, and many have claimed that it can be accessed. A common connector is the presence of the King Bob-omb's child. The Bob-omb Village painting on the second floor of the castle is said to be one of the methods of accessing the level in the retail release, though not everyone has been successful in this. 120 Spiritual Significance. This was mentioned in the intro. 120 is the number of power stars Mario can collect through normal means in the retail release of Super Mario 64. 120 also happens to be an angel number that means positive energy surrounds you and shows ambition. What this actually means in relation to Bing Bing Wahoo 64 is unknown. At least, it's unknown to me. Debug menu names. In Super Mario 64 there exists a debug menu, and with it, the ability to select levels. The levels shown in the debug menu are not named the same as anywhere else in the game, however. For example, Hazy Maze Cave is Horror Dungeon, Big Boo's Haunt is Boo Apparition, Jolly Roger Bay is called Water Dungeon and Submersion, and Tall Tall Mountain is called Monkey and Slide 2. But who could forget Bowser in the Sky being called Extra 3, Heaven. Tower of the Wingcap True Location. This entry is similar to several other entries, with the main idea that Mario magically warping to another world via something as insignificant as a painting is weird. In this instance, it's even stranger, as the location in question is accessed by looking it's accessed by looking at the ceiling. Imagine opening your refrigerator in the morning and being transported to a barren, snowy land. Oops, guess you looked at the wrong thing, so sorry. Island in the Distance. The skybox of stages like Bob-omb Battlefield and Tiny Huge Island contain what appear to be islands. While the player cannot access these islands, some have reported the opposite being true. It is entirely possible that the stages with said skyboxes are the very islands themselves. Lethal Lava Land Painting Fireball. The painting for Lethal Lava Land has always been something players have questioned. After all, there is no Mario character quite like it. The fireballs that appear during the Bowser fight of Super Mario World come to mind, but even those don't quite match. It is unknown what this fireball painting is supposed to be, but one thing is for certain. You should probably stop staring at it before it finally decides to come out and show us. The course in the Bowser painting. A common question even I have asked at one point in my life. Is it possible to enter the painting behind the invisible wall right before Bowser in the Dark World? Many have tried. All but a few have failed. While we may not know what that few have seen, we do know that there might be more to this than meets the eye. I remember trying on several occasions when I was a kid, where I would, give it a couple goes, but obviously it didn't work. I certainly put in the effort though. Ally with info. In Super Mario 64 DS, the Toad in the Mirror room will mention an ally with info being present. Some have believed it to be Wario due to his painting being on the other side of the mirror. Even after unlocking Wario into speaking to Toad as Wario, the Toad will continue to mention this ally. Who is this ally with info? We have no idea. Could just be Lakitu, due to him being visible in this specific room. It could also be the Power Flowers present, though that one's a little bit of a stretch, and Power Flowers don't exactly give info. Castle Black Box. From one Super Mario 64 DS oddity to another. In Super Mario 64 DS, it is possible to spot a black box on the castle's exterior when viewing it from the file select screen. In-game, however, there is no such box. Some have theorized the black box being directly related to how the player can unlock Waluigi. Perhaps it is a secret level or even a hidden painting that leads to Waluigi directly. In truth, with what I've been able to gather from early footage of the game, the black box is actually just an alcove present in the beta, appearing to contain a cannon that the player could have used during multiplayer versus mode. Early footage of it does indeed reveal it to have once existed in-game. Wet Dry World Negative Emotional Aura. This one I have always understood, but never truly felt the right way. That is to say, I understood what this meant and understood how it felt, but never got to experience it at full power. Until recently. Many players report feeling not so nice things when playing this level, whether it's due to the atmosphere of the level or the level itself. Wet Dry World is often considered to have a negative emotional aura. I fully agree and can confirm it does. Something about the atmosphere of this level combined with how frustrating it can be at times, the music, the skybox, the implication of the town area. Not too long ago, I was at the dentist's, waiting for the dentist to actually show up. I had my 3DS with me, and the fan-made 3DS port of Super Mario 64 on it. I was in Wet Dry World and struggling. I had just gotten all but one of the secret points required to get a star, when I, in an act of trying to reach the water lowering switch faster, shot myself with a cannon over to that area. I had aimed the cannon poorly and ended up shooting myself into the town area, unable to leave. All that work had been taken away from me in one simple act. So there I was, frustrated that the dentist was taking forever and now experiencing Wet Dry World at its finest. I genuinely felt it in that moment and understood. This level is hell, and I am burning in it. Outside of that incident, I have always felt something about Wet Dry World to be off. I'm convinced it's just the later stages of Super Mario 64 that I don't like, but it definitely starts at Wet Dry World. Something about traversing the level is frustrating to me. The second I reach this part of the game, my will to play evaporates like water. Peach is behind the stained glass window. The ending of Super Mario 64 sees the princess slowly fading in next to a giant stained glass window outside of the castle. I don't think it's too far-fetched to claim she was literally behind it the entire time. Maybe Bowser enchanted the glass to act like a painting, but only for long enough for her to be in there, sealing her off until Mario succeeds in the end. Metal Mario texture. The texture for Metal Mario is, well, it's weird. It does not accurately reflect anything nearby, but instead shows the reflection of something. In truth, the texture is that of houses and flowers, two things you don't see too often in Super Mario 64 to begin with. The Wario apparition. A handful of players have made the claim that upon entering the hallway to Dire Dire Docks, instead of the portal to the level greeting them, something else did. A being that has been dubbed the Wario apparition. It commonly takes the form of a giant floating Wario head, and is said to be dangerous to even so much as view. If the Wario apparition is ever encountered, it is advised that you do not linger on its presence for too long. Do not attempt to flee the being, but instead turn the game off as fast as you can. By giving this thing power over you by allowing it to be witnessed, you're only contributing to its influence. Some have claimed that the Wario apparition's appearance is much worse than a mere Wario head, though it isn't uncommon for unexplained memory loss to claim any recollections they may have had of their encounter. Some have claimed that the Wario encounter is a winnable boss fight, while others have claimed it to be an inevitable game over. The most widely accepted version of the Wario apparition encounter features the head chasing the player down a now endless hallway until either it catches up or Mario reaches the end, if one is even present. Some say the entity appears due to the player's subconscious desire for Wario to exist in the game. Kick the Bowser picture. In a letter sent by a Reddit user to Nintendo back in 1998, they asked about two things: a boo sound that plays when you kick the Bowser picture, and L is real. Both of these basically got the response of, "This means nothing." The issue is, I haven't been able to find anything about kicking a Bowser picture. I've kicked just about every painting of Bowser that I could find, and no such boo sound plays. I've even kicked the Bowser picture on his sub, but nothing happens. Looking this up doesn't help either, because all of the results are about the big boo laugh and Bowser's laugh being the same sample, but played at different speeds. Does anyone know what this is about? Am I missing something? Perhaps there's a Bowser picture we don't know about? Brain diagram. It has been said that the layout of Wet Dry World mimics the layout of a brain, thus making Wet Dry World a brain diagram. Outside of this, some have claimed that in the assets of Wet Dry World there exists a diagram of a brain. This is what that diagram supposedly looks like. Bowser broke the door. In Peach's courtyard, the door is surrounded by bricks that do not match the rest. This is theorized to be because of Bowser, who, due to his size, broke through this way, and the off-color bricks were due to needing hasty repairs. The Bowser Room. A rumored location in Super Mario 64. The Bowser Room is a mysterious location often claimed to contain a variety of oddities. The most common features include plain gray walls, a portrait of Bowser hung on the wall, and a white floor. It is often cited as merely a hoax due to the channel Oni plays, mentioning it as being their own work. I don't know who to believe, but one thing is for sure. It was Miyamoto's favorite room, and the game couldn't come out without it. The Forbidden Door. This entry is weird. I have no idea what specifically it means, though I have my theories. Could it be in reference to the Mirror Room door? Though if it is, why is it so low compared to the Mirror Room entry? It could be in reference to the Black Room of Death, which causes normal doors to transport the player between Black Rooms of Death, thus making doors different than normal, thus making them forbidden. I also remember seeing a hoax video a long time ago in which a door is found at the very top of the castle. That could be the Forbidden Door. Whatever this door is, we can say for certain that entering it must be a big no-no. The decompilation is censored. This entry suggests that the Super Mario 64 decompilation was censored. Whether this means Nintendo themselves stepped in or the game somehow censored what could be decompiled, it can be implied that the decompiled code that we got isn't the full story. Hazy Maze Cave's entrance is a sewer. Some have speculated that due to the entrance appearing to be covered in pipes, the entrance to Hazy Maze Cave is somehow related to the castle's sewer system. No, really, that's it. That's all there is to it. Toad projection. Ever notice how when distancing yourself from a toad in Super Mario 64, they seem to grow thinner? Not like in terms of skinny toads, but like they begin to fade out and grow less opaque. As far as I'm aware, people don't actually do that in real life. It's almost as if the toads are merely projections. Full Omen Archive. The Omen Archive was an archive of code and documentation relating to the Nintendo 64. Early emulation of the Nintendo 64 was made possible thanks to this archive, though its use is illegal. This entry is, from what I can tell, in reference to the possibility that the entire Omen Archive was never actually released. That much like the decompilation of Super Mario 64, what was leaked was only a fraction of the entire picture. Silicon Graphics Curse. To make a long story short, SGI, otherwise known as Silicon Graphics Inc., was a company involved with the creation of the Nintendo 64. After the release of Super Mario 64, SGI began to slowly decline, until finally filing for bankruptcy in 2009. This has led some to believe that Super Mario 64 was involved in some way, given its various oddities. That is, it somehow cursed the company. Wiggler's body parts are used in the Bowser fights. The mines seen in Bowser's arena look a lot like the segments of the Wiggler from Tiny Huge Island. This has led people to believe that either the game reused the graphics for the Bowser fight, or that the Wiggler's body parts are literally used in-universe for these fights. In reality though, I can't really confirm any of this myself. July 29th, 1995 build. Do not research. This is a supposed build of Super Mario 64 that contained a lot of oddities, to say the least. one that I may in fact pay the price for doing research into. It is often cited as the oldest piece of Nintendo 64 history due to its date being before the Ultra 64 was even patented. Some say the playtesters of the aforementioned build experienced horrific hallucinations after playing, and that a bug existed which causes textures to occasionally flash rapid colors, inducing seizures in those susceptible. Not much else is known about this build, and researching it is said to bring misfortune to those who dare attempt it. If I go missing, you know exactly why. Hazy Maze Cave is the castle septic system. Similarly to a prior entry about the entrance, this theory is about the actual level itself being the castle septic system. This comes from the presence of gas in the maze and the rolling rocks actually being, well, not rocks. Toads literally trapped in the walls. The toad present in the lobby of the castle states, "Am I glad to see you? The princess, and I, and, well, everybody. We're all trapped inside the castle walls." This message could imply several things. It could mean that they are all merely trapped inside the castle itself, unable to leave. Inside the walls typically means one is present in the interior of a building. This entry, however, is attempting to say that the toads are literally trapped inside of the walls, as in they are embedded within the wall, just out of view. This would explain why the toads we see merely stand there, unmoving, and why they fade away as Mario grows distant. It's because the toads are projections. The toads trapped inside the walls are using their power so that they can communicate with Mario by projecting themselves outside. It's why you always see toads near walls, because they can't project themselves out in the open, they're trapped in the walls. Textureless Mario Anomaly. A strange event documented by YouTuber SwankyBox. The Textureless Mario Anomaly was an event in which SwankyBox made a challenge ROM that replaced all objects with coins, only for Tiny Huge Island to bug out. The water was missing, no music played, the level would randomly disappear and reappear, and most notably of all, Mario's face texture would vanish. When trying to replicate it, it didn't always work identically. It is unknown exactly what this was, but it's interesting regardless. Enchanted SC-88 samples used in soundtrack. It is theorized that components of Super Mario 64 soundtrack were enchanted. This leads to some songs having strange effects on those who listen to them. This might explain why some tracks like Jolly Roger Bay's theme induce a sense of overwhelming calmness for some. The internal plexus of the castle. To put it bluntly, Peach's castle makes no sense. Most of what exists within the walls of the castle would not fit in that space we see the castle take up when viewed from the outside. The third floor of the castle would absolutely never fit, and thus one wonders if something strange is going on, and what else this could mean. Sequel cancelled due to temporal leakage. This entry is hard to explain. Temporal could have multiple meanings, and so I will attempt to apply all of them. 1. Temporal refers to time. 2. Temporal refers to that of which is worldly rather than spiritual. And 3. Temporal refers to the temples of the head. With these in mind, we can now go over what their applications could be. For time, I could see it being in reference to a time leakage. This could just be a fancy way of saying they ran out of time to make the sequel. It could also mean that perhaps some sort of time anomaly prevented the sequel from being made. If referring to worldly events, whatever anomalies existing in Super Mario 64 could have mysteriously stopped happening in the sequel, thus leading to the game underperforming when compared to the first, resulting in it being cancelled. Finally, if referring to the head, this entry may imply that there was some sort of brain leakage, that something about the sequel caused people to lose memories. Perhaps people began to forget things that they needed to know, which led to the sequel not being able to be developed at all. Perhaps the leakage was literal and physical, brain damage, so to speak. The sequel might have been hazardous to your health, or even the first game being hazardous led to the second being cancelled abruptly. These are my best guesses. If you have your own, feel free to comment. Shared nightmares. Many people have reported having similar Super Mario 64 related nightmares. These nightmares have included the presence of beta penguins of Super Mario 64, babbling in an unintelligible language, never allowing the victim to wake up. I know that I've had my fair share of strange video game dreams before and nightmares, but shockingly, never any Super Mario 64 ones. I find that odd. Miyamoto stole Mario 64 from Argonaut. Argonaut once pitched a 3D Yoshi game to Nintendo. It was to have been named simply Yoshi Racing, according to one employee. It was also described as an unnamed 3D platformer in an article by Eurogamer. The pitch was rejected, however. Later, when Super Mario 64 was released, Argonaut's Jez San claimed that the prototype influenced Super Mario 64, stating, "Miyamoto-san went on to make Super Mario 64, which had the look and feel of our Yoshi game, but with the Mario character, of course." He also recalls a time where Miyamoto came up to him and apologized for rejecting the pitch. This information has led people to believe Super Mario 64 was built off of the prototype and or modeled after it, thus leading to the claim that it was stolen from Argonaut. Not for resale cartridge differences. It has been claimed that the not for resale cartridges of Super Mario 64 contain things, beta content for one, but also strange, undocumented anomalies. Delicious Cake. Delicious Cake is an unused string of text in Super Mario 64. It is unknown exactly what it was used for, though some have speculated it to be an unused level, even being the original intro for the game. Lavender Town and Polybius were cover-ups for Super Mario 64. This entry is mysterious. I have theories, though. Here's the quick version of what this means. Both Polybius and Lavender Town Syndrome were rumors made up specifically by Nintendo and or someone associated with them with the express purpose of burying Super Mario 64 rumors. Is it any coincidence that we only started talking about these things 2 years ago? Both Polybius and Lavender Town Syndrome have been proven false, but Super Mario 64's anomalies? They persist. Something is up. For sure. It's almost as if every copy of Mario 64 is personalized. This is it. The truth. The entry that explains everything. This entry is attempting to communicate the idea that each individual copy of Super Mario 64 is different and personalized to the player. Ever notice how playing the game on a ROM or even playing someone else's copy feels wrong? It's not just your imagination. This copy is not your own. It isn't personalized. It isn't what you remember, because it isn't the same game you played a long time ago. That old copy of Super Mario 64 you had as a kid was your game, and any version you played after wasn't. This is why we remember what we do, but can't explain any of it. It's because every copy personalizes itself to fit us, It adds and removes content to our liking or to our horror. This is where all the anomalies fit in. They aren't anomalies. They're just differences. Differences caused by an AI that wants to make your experience with this game special, unique. Your weird childhood misconceptions about Super Mario 64? Real. They're all real. None of them were misconceptions. That was the expanded Super Mario 64 Iceberg. This video took a while to make for obvious reasons. The original Iceberg is so expansive, and adding even more to it it made it even worse to get through. It was fun for sure, but now it ends. Now it ends. Now it ends. Enemy discoloring. It has been reported in some copies of Super Mario 64 that enemies may become discolored, and with this exhibit new behaviors. The scope of this is far too wide to cover in one video, but here are some highlights. Blue womps that create a shockwave when they fall, orange skeeters that can move across lava instead of water, red boos that reverse your controls when they land a hit, and a purple mad piano that lunges at you. Dynamic level rearrangement. The AI of Super Mario 64 has been known to change levels at random to freshen the gameplay experience. This can include changing textures, object placements, object banks, text strings, and music arrangements. Peach's Castle 4th floor. A reported 4th floor of Peach's. What exists on this floor can vary, though boos roam the floor commonly. Another common occurrence is the appearance of the Toad Shrine, a large metallic toad statue of unknown purpose. Ukiki. An enemy said to replace Ukiki in Tall Tall Mountain, Ukiki differs in that it doesn't just steal your hat, but instead, it'll use it to transform into Mario. From there, it'll attack Mario with all of his moves, and it can be defeated with 3 hits. If Ukiki falls off the stage, they will simply jump back in a similar fashion to Bowser or the King Babam. White-Eyed Chain Chomp. The White-Eyed Chain Chomp, otherwise known as the White-Eyed Chomp, is an anomaly said to indicate that a copy of Super Mario 64 will soon undergo intense personalization. The anomaly is simple. The Chain Chomp of Bob-omb Battlefield will have pure white eyes, though some have reported it also being loose. Metal Parasite. The Metal Parasite is an enemy that has been claimed to be encountered in Hazy Maze Cave. It attacks Mario by lunging, and if it can touch him, Mario will gain the Metal Cap effect forever. There is no way to remove this effect unless the save file is deleted. In this state, touching enemies will make them invincible and metal, just like Mario. Falling into pits will always shoot Mario back up, resulting in him being unable to die. Child of Big Babam. An anomalous entity said to appear in Super Mario 64, the Child of Big Babam is said to be another sign of heavy personalization. The Child of Big Babam has been claimed to appear on the 2nd floor of Peach's castle, where they will run from Mario at speeds Mario cannot match. If chased for long enough, they will jump into the Babam painting present on the 2nd floor. If not chased, they will eventually walk into the painting, only this time, Mario can follow them to what is presumed to be Babam Village. The Mario Silhouette. Some players have reported seeing a shadowy figure similar in shape to that of Mario himself, with said figure roaming the halls of Peach's castle. The figure can be seen doing various things Mario is capable of, though can never be chased for very long. It is unknown what they want. Feeding Tuxie. According to some, Tuxie the baby penguin can sometimes be seen with her mouth stretched open, and head on backwards. When this happens, the other baby penguin will not be present and Tuxie will hop up instead of waddling, while also emitting a whining sound. A Reddit post exists that proves this phenomenon's existence. A screenshot once existed, though I cannot find it anymore. I remember it being genuinely unsettling. The Womp's Fortress Creature. The Womp's Fortress creature is said to exist in multiple levels, not just Womp's Fortress. It causes a variety of strange effects akin to glitches while present. Its presence is known to cause the game to lose its color, and its physical appearance is said to vary dramatically. It is said to laugh, which is merely an unbearable, high-pitched beeping. Metallic Monster. The Metallic Monster is an entity said to appear in Hazy Maze Cave. It has been reported to look like a metallic head that chases the player. It has also been noted to appear in its own sub-area, Shiny Metal Ravine, where it is the only thing present. Mario 64 was a cover-up for That was the expanded Super Mario 64 Iceberg. This video took a while to make for obvious reasons. The original Iceberg is so expansive, and adding even more to it it made it even worse to get through. It was fun for sure, but now it ends. Thank you for watching this entire thing. I'm sure this is my longest video yet, no doubt. I do still feel like I didn't manage to cover all that I wanted to or could, but what is there to do? I'm only one person. Until next time, gamers, have a fungus.